everybody. Welcome to Networking Action. My name is Ronnie. Today I have the pleasure to talk with Jayne Whisnant. She's the area director of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in Central Texas chapter. Hi, Jayne. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, we just said that it's a big title, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a mouthful.
All right. So tell us, Jayne, in your words, what is it that you do?
Well, I do a lot of different things for the organization. So basically, I manage all of our volunteers. I'm the only staff person in Central Texas, and so we are a voluntary health organization that is supported by staff. And one of my biggest roles, aside from making sure our volunteers have all of the tools and resources that they need, is actually using my time to get in front of people, to tell people about what it is that we do and encourage people to engage with us.
All right. So let's do that. Let's engage with you. What is it that you do?
Yeah. So with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, our mission is to save lives and to bring hope to those affected by suicide. And some of the ways that we do that is one, through research. We're the largest private funder of suicide preventative research in the world. And the majority of researchers who are in suicide prevention have been supported by us at some point during their careers. So because of that, we pride ourselves in the education that we offer, because everything we do is evidence-based. Any piece of information that's coming from AFSP, there is research to support that piece of information. And we offer those education programs at no cost to the community. So we do regular education programs through the chapter, and then there's also some through the national office as well that we'll usually push through our chapter channels as well, so that the local audience can get access to those. And all of that we're able to do through our walks. So we have our Out of the Darkness walks that happen in the fall. And that's our largest funder. It's 60% of all of the fundraising that we do across the entire organization comes from our Out of the Darkness walks. And it's not just a fundraiser. It is a day for people who have lived experience with suicide, and a day for people who have lost someone to suicide or support somebody who has made a suicide attempt or struggled with suicide, to all come together in support for this cause, to let people know that prioritizing your mental health is just as important as prioritizing your physical health. And there is hope that we can find a world without suicide. It's also an opportunity for people to remember loved ones that they've lost, or remember their own journey as an attempt survivor. We have people speak. We have a lot of times some of our local state legislators come and speak to our audience. And it's really just a moving event. COVID-19, we're not really sure yet how big we'll be able to have it, but pre-COVID, we had over 2,000 people come to our Austin Out of the Darkness walk and walk through the streets of Austin, which it's really amazing to see that many people get behind a cause that is so taboo.
Absolutely. That sounds incredible. I'm just saying it out of context now, but just walking the streets of Austin alone is extremely challenging with all your hills and your ups and downs.
Yes.
So
oh yeah. And
get some good workout.
And there was definitely a large hill that everyone had to climb. So
it's so cool. That's amazing. So let's ask you this. It might be a little bit personal, but how did you get involved with this organization?
Yeah, so my career has been in nonprofits. I graduated from Texas A&M with a degree in health. And with a health degree, if you're not going into the medical field, it's either medical sales or nonprofit. And I chose the nonprofit route. And so I've been doing that since 2015, and I worked for another great organization for several years. And then in 2018, I actually heard about this role with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I had not thought about this organization for several years, but I had heard about it. I was a freshman in college, and I was taking a psychology 101 class, and my professor actually used AFSP materials to teach us about the warning signs of suicide. And in that class that I was in, I could not help but think about somebody who I love, and it made me very worried about them. And so I immediately left that class and went to that person. I had an honest conversation with them, told them what I was noticing and why I was concerned, and then asked them, are you thinking about suicide? And they said yes. And so I was actually instrumental in helping them to find resources to help them. And that was 12 years ago. That person is still here today. They are still an important person in my life, and they are one of the most successful people that I know. So when AFSP offered me the job, it was an easy yes.
Wow, that is absolutely wonderful. I'm really glad your friend, your loved one is with us today. It's something that's kind of hard to wrap your mind around, and and I am actually really interested in tools that you have. You mentioned that there's a lot of tools online that you said they're not just necessarily associated with the darkness walk, right? It's a out of the darkness walk. But you guys do have all these tools available for anybody that is interested in and may need more help with I guess mental health, right?
Yeah.
So where can we find those tools?
So
End of question.
Yeah, most of those tools are available on our website. So if you go to afsp.org, you can click the Get Help button, and you can actually find resources for if you are in a crisis, or if you know somebody in a crisis, or if you've lost somebody and you don't know where to turn, because the grief process with suicide loss is different from other types of grief. And so there's resources there to find support groups specifically for suicide loss. There's resources there to connect with our Healing Conversations program. That is volunteers who sign up to participate, who they themselves have lost loved ones to suicide, but have been trained by us to be able to meet with new loss survivors and provide resources to them. And then, of course, all of the prevention education resources are there as well. We've got a whole suite of resources specifically for schools. We have resources for community-based programs, workplaces, minority communities, all of the niche programs you can think of, the niche communities. We have resources there specifically for the LGBTQ community, Asian Americans, Black communities, Hispanic communities. We have a lot of material there in Spanish as well. And actually, I don't know the number of languages, but on the top of our website, there is a plug that you can select what language you speak, and everything on the website will be translated so that anyone of any language can actually read and get the resources that are available there.
That's fantastic and amazing. So let's pivot a little bit. So we live in an extremely weird world right now. COVID-19, I've been hearing on NPR and on the news. I've been feeling it myself. Depression is getting deeper. People feel lonelier. It's getting kind of tough. How do you feel this whole COVID world that we're in right now, this pandemic, has affected some of your work?
Yeah, so the thing with suicide and COVID, we don't actually know whether suicide rates are going to increase. Suicide rates are not recorded in real time. We only know to date the suicide rates for 2019. And we just got that information in December of 2020, which actually in 2019, for the first time in over 2 decades, the rates dropped. So a lot of people are speculating that the rates are going to go up, but there's just not any information to support those statements right now, because we don't have the data to support those statements right now. There are some areas across the country who are already turning in some of that information, and the information that they are turning in is not indicating that there is going to be a large spike. It's not complete data, it's only sample data, but from what we know right now, there's not any indication that there will be a large spike, and actually talking like there will be can do more harm than good, which is why we, rather than trying to focus on what could be for the suicide rates, has been to focus on what you can do to protect yourself, because we know through research that suicide can be prevented if you prioritize your mental health. And so through the entire COVID-19 pandemic, that has been our strategy, is to provide free resources for people, to educate people on what self-care means, on what the warning signs for suicide are, how to have a conversation about suicide if you're concerned about somebody, and where are you supposed to go for help. So that has kind of been our strategy through the whole thing. But we also know that this is stressful. I mean, when anybody goes through a stressful life event, it's going to have an impact on your mental health. And so that's why it's so important to know what it is that helps you. What is your self-care? Who is your support system? Who can you call and who can you trust within your friend group and your family, that they're not going to judge you and they're going to listen to what it is that you have to say? And then, do you have a relationship with a mental health professional in case you need them? And if you don't, and you do need a mental health professional, find that person and utilize that person.
Absolutely. So in terms of you're an area director, you obviously manage, hundreds of volunteers, there's events, there's, like you were saying, like part of your job is to present and to explain in front of companies and people, to get more interest in the organization. With COVID-19 restrictions, did that part of your business get affected?
Fundraising is down. I'll just say it flat out. Our fundraising is down 50%. But
everybody's business all over. So
yeah. It's just a result of the economic issues that we're seeing right now. People have lost jobs. But our education is actually up. We have been offering free education. At first, we did it on a weekly basis, free, open to the public education opportunities for anybody to tune in and participate. Just on our chapter level, on a weekly basis, from the majority of COVID of 2020. Now we're doing that on a monthly basis, just to kind of scale back. We've started seeing lower attendance, which means people have already seen it. So we have scaled that back down to just once a month free education opportunities, with the exception of May, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we actually have free education programs every week in May. There are different varieties of education programs, with a few additional ones. So we've got, actually, we just have a brand new program that we're partnering with. It's Gizmo's Possum Guide to Mental Health. It's for kids aged 5 to 11, and it's a read along. I mentioned before we started recording about how it's important to start talking to your kids about mental health, just in the same way that you teach them that it's important for them to eat healthy and exercise. And that's what this book does. We have so many books for children that teach them you should eat vegetables 2 to 3 times a day, and you should have your PE class and go play outside and run around and be a kid. And we do all of that so that we can teach them young why it's important to protect their physical health. And so this book does the same thing with their mental health. So we've got that available. We've had a lot more companies reach out to us about trying to identify different things that they can do within their company to prioritize mental health, because companies are seeing that the mental health of their employees is struggling because of this COVID-19. And so we have workplace resources. We have resources specifically designed for the workplace, and more people are actually starting to reach out and ask us for those.
That is very interesting. So what can we do to help you to get, where you need to be?
Well, a few things. One of them is register for one of our upcoming events that we have. If it's a free education event, that's great. Or if you want to register for the walk, sign up a corporate team for the walk. And even if you're not, so I'm in Austin, but we have these walks in every major city across the country. So there is one in Houston, there is one in Dallas, there's one in San Antonio, they're in New York City, they're everywhere. And so you can sign up for a walk near you, no matter where you are. You don't have to fundraise, but if you decide to, we would be through the roof happy about it. And we would incentivize you through prizes as well. If you have a company that would like to start a corporate team or a sponsorship, we do offer marketing in exchange for sponsorship donations, logos on the backs of t-shirts, logos on website, that kind of thing. And actually doing that will help you get some recognition from other communities. You know, when a person in the community sees a company sponsoring a cause that they like and that is valuable to them, then they're more likely to purchase from that company. And it also helps in the workplace too, because if your employer sees your company sponsoring a event that is passionate, or a cause that they're passionate about, it makes them happier to work for that employer. And it helps them to know, oh, well, I have been struggling. Maybe it's okay for me to open up about this and I won't be judged.
That is true. So in part of the toolkits that you guys are offering, there is a way to, you know, start a conversation, because a lot of the times, like being in the corporate world, and this is, you know, just a general information for everybody, or being part of the corporate world, you feel talking about your mental health is almost like a taboo. Yes, we're talking about, you know, a subject that is already has big taboo on it. People do not like the word suicide, do not like talking about it, but you know, we're talking about mental health, which is kind of like one step back from it. Even that is even something that people feel comfortable. And being part of the corporate world, sometimes feel like you're not even allowed to say a word. So you feel like employers, big companies, small companies should incorporate some of these tools to their own toolkit to talk to their employees, to have open conversations, is something that you would recommend people? I guess I don't even know what I'm asking at this point, but
yeah. I mean, I recommend it in the workplace. I recommend it at home. The more people know that it's safe for them to open up about their mental health, the more likely they're going to. And I mean, you're right, mental health is a little bit of a step back from suicide, but research shows us that 90% of people who die by suicide have an active mental health condition at their time of death. So when you're talking about suicide, you're talking about mental health. And
it's the end of the rope, right? It's
right. Yeah.
We're trying not to get there. We're trying to prevent it.
Right. So. And so if you're able to talk about your mental health before you reach a crisis point, then that's a good thing. And so encouraging people at work to know that it's okay to take a mental health day. If sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you're so stressed, you've got so much going on, and you just need to take a day. And workplaces should encourage their employees to do that, and to encourage them to recognize when it is okay and when they should talk to a mental health professional. Because, you know, I tell people this all the time. If you fell from a ladder and broke your arm, would you say, oh, I don't need to go to a doctor, I'll just wait it out, it'll get better on its own? No, you wouldn't. You would go to the doctor and you would get a cast or a sling or whatever it is. And then you'd go to work and you'd have your cast or your sling, and people would say, oh, it looks like you had an accident. And it should be the same thing with our mental health. If you're in a point where your mental health is becoming an obstacle for your day-to-day activities, where you can't focus, where you can't sleep, where you can't do your day-to-day activities, you need to see a mental health professional. And it needs to be okay. Like, it needs to be okay to go see a mental health professional. Your employer would give you time off work to go see your doctor. They should give you time off work to go see a mental health professional as well.
I agree 100% with you, Jayne. And I really, 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 really hope that what we recorded today is gonna go out and loud and everybody will hear it, because it is so true. That's all I have to say. It's very, very true. All right. Well, I did promise it's going to be a short interview, turning to like kind of long interview, but it's so insightful and interesting, and you know, your cause and your mission is just incredible, and I am thankful for people like you to take from their time and take from their passion and just continue delivering everybody else the knowledge that everybody kind of needs to know about any profit subject. But this is something very, very specific and very, very important to address. So thank you so much for being that voice. So if any of your loved one is struggling with mental health or thinking about suicide, Jayne tried to teach me how to say it right, so I'm not saying it right, so I'm going to say it one more time. The noting. That is your thing, but really thank you.
It's okay. Do you want me to do it?
Yes. Okay, Jayne, can you just give us a little no, Jayne, please tell us what should I do if me or somebody I know is struggling with mental health or suicide?
Yes. So if you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis or just needs to know where to find resources, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text the crisis text line at TALK 741 to 741. Those lines are both open every single day of the year, 365 and 24/7. You'll be connected with a trained counselor who will help you to identify resources and de-escalate a situation if you're in a crisis.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jayne. Again, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for everything you do. I really hope we can raise more awareness and we can actually get you guys back to working at 100% fundraising capacity.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. It was great to talk to you.